For more on this, I'm joined by Robert Fox, defence editor for the Evening Standard. Robert, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Denmark has alerted NATO and the European Union after coordinated drone attacks at its airport. Why have they alerted both organisations?
Well, it's been going on for a long time. This week alone, in the space of 48 hours, there have been two separate waves of incursions. And what's so interesting, which shows that this does look like a coordinated disruption campaign, is that this time they aimed at the smaller airports, not Copenhagen itself, but in the north, and 3 or 4 small airports by just flying drones in at night, green lights. You disrupt traffic. You just make sure that that normal traffic and communication flows cannot continue. Mette Frederiksen, the Prime Minister, has been very firm about it, and she's been very clever, I would say, in what the statement that she's made about it. She said this is a coordinated, professional effort, not named the suspect, indicating, though, of course, that they do suspect that Russia is somewhere deeply behind this, and asking for Article 4. And it's very interesting that Article 4 comes up, because Article 4 is where the NATO countries of Europe, on a bilateral or multilateral basis, below Article 5, which involves the whole alliance, must get together and deal with the defence. And dealing with the defence has got to be done actually with the EU as well. It's a warning note to the EU that this is going on, and you've got to give more muscle, more clear thought, more realism to your foreign and security policy.
And Robert, Russia has said it's not involved, but you just talked to me about Mette Frederiksen's speech. But is Europe on high alert after several NATO members have reported airspace violations by Russia? And I feel like we're seeing a pattern of it. There seems to be more happening lately.
The more lately, you're absolutely right. That is absolutely the key phrase. This has been going on for a long time. There have been drifts of drones into Romanian as well as Polish airspace. And then we had between 19 and 23 drones on the 9th of September into Polish airspace. And then Belarus gets up and said, oh, we think they're on the way, and it may be a bit of an accident, maybe an overshoot for the Zapad. Belarus Russian military exercise, sorry, a bit of a mouthful that, and but then we had a drone drifting over Romania within a day of that happening, and the Romanians were very interesting about it because they wanted to drive the drone away. They didn't want to knock down the drones, which the response force over Poland felt constrained to do. And then, rather more sinister and more direct, was the incursion of 3 MiG-31s with their highly sophisticated aircraft over Estonian airspace, largely airspace over the sea. But what happened there was that the aircraft switched off their transponders. They didn't respond to civilian air traffic control. Therefore, that shows that they were on a stealth mission. They claimed that they were trying to reinforce the Russian presence in Kaliningrad, the enclave between Poland and Belarus and, of course, Lithuania. And that's going to be the key place. We're seeing pressure points all along the line, and Russia appears to be ramping up the pressure. The denial is absolutely to be taken because it's an information war as much as an incursion and a probing and a testing disruption war for them. And it is a kind of conflict.
Oh, I do apologise. Sorry. I was just going to say earlier this week, President Donald Trump said NATO countries should shoot down Russian planes if they enter the airspace. Now, what are the consequences if this action is actually taken?
By the way, can I just say, I think NATO allies do not take that as an order for Donald Trump. And one of the conspicuous things, particularly with his performance at the UN, at the General Assembly, is that Trump is almost discounted in terms of practical preparation for this. No doubt the American forces, there are absolutely no doubt that the American forces are reinforcing and they are preparing, as they should, all military forces for the worst if it should happen. They've been sending bombers over to the UK to reinforce, and they have been warning about obviously the signals and information war, which is where American contributions, particularly in communications and intelligence, are absolutely vital. But do put Trump to one side if you can with this, particularly his rhetoric, because we now have to guess at what Putin's command, and what his soldiers are really up to. And then, of course, we have to come back to Ukraine. The Ukraine conflict is coming to what's known as a culminating point. It's coming to a tipping point because it cannot go on like this, because the Russian forces are showing it cannot go on like this, particularly as the Ukrainians, rather surprisingly, have more tricks up their sleeves than had been expected. They're not losing totally on the battlefield in the way that even the conservative American narrative would have us, and they are capable of fighting a depth battle, and we don't really know the consequences of that. I spell that out. They're hitting pipelines, they're hitting vital communication centers, they're hitting ammunition dumps, and they're getting deep, deep into Russia. And one suspects from this side, looking at it very carefully, they've got really good intermediate missiles working. They boasted about their Flamingo missile range of 2,000 kilometers, and they do seem to be striking deep. And as the winter comes on, Russia could be facing a major resource, but above all, fuel and possibly even food distribution crisis.
Absolutely fascinating to speak to you, Robert Fox. I hope that we do have you on the show again, defense editor for the Evening Standard. Thank you for your time.